Hey guys, it's Pixelade here and welcome back to the channel, or welcome if you're new. So EA published a blog post recently and I'm a little late here, but I really want to talk about it with you. I really think the timing here is just remarkable. So the Sims 4 community has been pretty frustrated for a while now. There are tons of things I could list here. Save corruption issues, which we did see some resolution for, I will give them credit there. Lots of error codes and optimization problems, crashes, lots failing to load. And even though they are fixing a lot of stuff, if we still get new content and new patches, I can see that list continuing to grow. Players have been vocal about wanting the game fixed. They've been pushing for meaningful improvements. And again, even though we have received patches and things do look at least a little better, EA's response to all of this, they provided a detailed guide explaining how players are probably causing their own performance issues. Oh boy, I have a lot of thoughts on this. Now, before we continue, this video is sponsored by Instant Gaming. If you're looking to grab some new games without paying a full price, Instant Gaming offers up to 90% off on a massive selection of titles. They cover everything from simulation games to RPGs, fantasy, shooters, and a ton more. And it's not just PC, they also support Xbox, PlayStation, and even Nintendo Switch as well. You can even pre-order certain upcoming titles at a discount, which most other platforms don't do. I also run a monthly giveaway with Instant Gaming where you can win any game or DLC of your choice. It is completely free to enter. Just to follow Instant Gaming on their socials to get in, and you can even earn bonus entries by following mine as well, which could inch you a little closer to winning. Links to the current deals and the giveaway are always down in the description below. If you're planning to pick something up anyway, using those links helps support the channel at no extra cost to you. So the blog post is called Dag to Lag, Improving the Sims 4 Performance. And it opens with this line, in quotes, "Our team put love and care into each pack and update we create, running meticulous performance tests to ensure they run smoothly across many platforms, including min-spec machines." Keep that in mind because it is going to become important later in this video. Now, the rest of this blog post is essentially just a breakdown of things that hurt your game's performance, and some of it is useful, I will admit. They explain how the game handles rendering, how objects that Sims can interact with take processing power even when idle, and there's a decent technical explanation of something called, in quotes, occluders. Basically, solid walls hide objects behind them so the game doesn't have to render everything at once. Glass walls and windows don't do this, which is why heavily decorated neighboring lots can cause issues if you can see into them. You know, that is useful information, I will give them that. But then we have everything else. So EA opens by telling us they run meticulous performance tests on every pack and update, and then the rest of the article is basically a confession that a lot of what they ship causes problems. Kitchen counters, surprisingly heavy on performance because of how many interactions are tied to them. Fridges and computers, high simulation costs. Doors with glass, transoms and sidelights, performance impact. Multiple wallpapers on a lot, mirrors reflecting each other, all impact. Platforms and pools, they're full of invisible portals that complicate sim routing. And this extends to multiple types of plants, lights, windows, carpets, and clutter items. All of that adds up. So you tested all of this meticulously and shipped it anyway? These aren't obscure edge cases. Kitchens are central to Sims gameplay. Players put counters and fridges in their houses because that's what kitchens have. And now we're being told those objects are surprisingly taxing on the system? They also mention the Live Edit Mode objects cheat, which lets you place environmental objects that aren't normally available in build mode. And in their own words, they write these objects are not performant when player placed. I mean, they gave us access to these objects, they provided the cheat, but now they're telling us those objects aren't optimized for player use? Use at your own risk? Same thing with the sim cap options. By default, the game limits you to 80 sims in played households. But there's an option right there in the menu to increase it to 150, 200, or even unlimited. And EA's advice? The 200 and unlimited options in quotes are not recommended in most instances. They put the option in the game, surfaced it in the settings menu, and now they're saying you probably shouldn't use it. Oh no, I'm not done. Farm animals too. The ones they sold you in cottage living. If you have too many, and they clarify they mean the 30 to 100 plus range, that can cause your game to, in quotes, lag heavily. They've made changes to try to decrease the effects, but the problem still exists. Now, they don't specifically clarify whether that number is for just one single lot or for a total within your save, and I personally hope it is for a lot, because I do think having that many animals on a lot is a bit excessive, but that number for a whole save actually could be pretty reasonable if you have multiple farms, so there is no excuse for that. So EA has spent years releasing expansion packs, game packs, stuff packs, and kits, hundreds and hundreds of dollars worth of content if you've been keeping up over the years. Objects, furniture, build items, gameplay, all of that is marketed as ways to enhance your Sims' experience and express your creativity. I mean, look at the tagline of the game. It is play with life. Build your dream homes, create your stories, customize everything. But now they've published a guide that says be careful using all of that stuff. Don't put too many objects on your lots. Don't use too many different wallpapers. Don't overdo it with the farm animals that we sold you. Oh, also, don't push the sim limits we put in the settings. Don't use the cheats that we provided. And don't build lots that are too dense with decorations. The message here, whether intentional or not, is buy our content, but use it sparingly, or your game might break. I don't know, that's a tough sell. When someone pays for a stuff pack that's full of kitchen items, the expectation is that they can use those items without worrying about performance costs, and also use that content with all of the other content that you sold them. When a player buys cottage living and wants a big farm with a ton of animals, they also expect that to work too. And when you have an unlimited Sims option in the settings menu for everyone to access, players are going to assume that it is a supported feature and not a trap to lead you down the hole of performance problems. But according to this blog post, all of those things are pushing your luck. And if your game crashes, or corrupts, or takes forever to load, well, maybe you should have built simpler lots. Maybe you should have used fewer of the things that you paid for. Now, while some might argue this is a power user problem, that people who mod heavily or build mansions on every lot are edge cases, and of course those players might run into issues or more issues than normal, which makes sense, they're pushing the game beyond what it was designed for. Except console players are experiencing these problems too. I see this mentioned a lot in my comments, and you guys are very right for calling this out. So we're gonna continue to have that conversation here, but vanilla players with no mods, no custom content, just the base game and official packs, they're getting error codes, they're getting save corruption and performance optimization problems. And they can't exactly close background programs on a PlayStation or clean out a mods folder that doesn't exist. They can't tweak graphic settings the same way PC players can. You know, if this was purely a you're exceeding your hardware limitations issue, console players with stock installs wouldn't be struggling with these issues, but they are, which I think suggests the problem runs deeper than player behavior. The game itself has optimization issues that no amount of player side adjustment can fully address. EA even acknowledged in the post that investigating crashes and bugs is difficult in quotes because each one can be very dependent on how it came about, which honestly sounds less like thorough testing and more like they don't fully understand what's causing issues in their own game. If the variables are that complex and the outcomes are that unpredictable, maybe the answer isn't a guide telling players to use less stuff. Now, I keep coming back to when this was published. The community has been pushing very, very hard for bug fixes and quality of life improvements. And again, again, I will give the team credit for that. I think they've done a really good job lately with what we've seen with the November patch and now the December patch, and we know that one is on the way for January. But with all of these patches, there has been a big push, a big marketing push for improving the game that they want to make known to everyone everywhere. So EA leaned very heavily into this marketing, the in quotes fix the game bit, turning player frustration into a promotional joke. They've been talking about their quality of life roadmap and save file investigations, and now while people are waiting for meaningful improvements to the game itself, which again we've gotten some, we also get a guide on how to optimize your own gameplay to avoid issues, and I think that framing is relevant. This really isn't positioned as, we identified performance bottlenecks and here's how we're addressing them. I just feel like the tone is reading a lot closer to here's what you're probably doing wrong and here's how to do better. There's even a section that says in quotes, if you can hear your computer struggling, it's probably time to take some of the steps below. Your computer is struggling because of decisions EA made about how objects and systems work. But the solution apparently is for you to use fewer of them. Build smaller and decorate less. Don't use all those features and options we gave you. The framing here just feels very tone deaf, and I get the point. I get what they were trying to do, but it was just very poorly executed in my opinion. Now, I'm not saying performance guides are bad. I think it is important that we understand how the game works under the hood and that all of that can help players make informed decisions. And again, some of this information like the occluder explanation or the portal object concept, all of that stuff is worth knowing, and there is a lot of helpful stuff here. But a performance guide doesn't fix the underlying issues. Why are kitchen counters, in quotes, surprisingly heavy in a life simulation game where kitchens are central to gameplay? Why aren't the objects available through official cheats optimized for player use? A tips article can't answer those questions, and it certainly doesn't solve save corruption or error codes either. Look, I get that game development is complicated. We all know this. Performance optimization is a constant balancing act, and player creativity will always push boundaries in unexpected ways. Every game has limits, and players who push those limits will sometimes run into issues. That's more than fair, but there is a big difference between here are some tips for advanced users who want to understand system limits and here's why your problems are probably your fault. And again, I feel like this blog reads more like the second one. Though very educational, it's just way too defensive for my liking. If the game's own systems are causing problems, the fix has to come from EA's side. A blog post telling players to build smaller and decorate less isn't the answer people were waiting for. Now, if you've been dealing with performance issues, lag crashes, or save problems, let me know in the comments what you've experienced. I'm definitely curious whether your issues track with what EA's describing or if it feels like something else entirely. And if you enjoyed this video, found it entertaining or informative, give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Make sure you ring the bell for notifications. And as always, thank you all so much for watching. Take care and happy life simming, guys.